Hi friends, this is Vipul Birla, and today what we do is nothing but we'll do the solutions of quantitative aptitude of CAT to 2021 slot 3, right? So we know there were 22 questions which came in the paper. So we'll be solving each and every question for you. One is with the using the normal method, and for some question I'll also be sharing the shortcut so that you should be able to know that okay, this is something that we can always apply when it comes to the question is concerned if it is being asked in the exam, right guys? So we'll start with this. So here's question number 1. A 4-digit number is formed by using only the digits 1, 2 and 3 such that both 2 and 3 appears at least once. The number of all such 4-digit number is. So what we need to do is nothing but we need to make a 4-digit number, that is 1. Digits that we have got is nothing but 1, 2 and 3, and they have stated that both the 2 and 3 appear at least once. So that means out of those 4, I know 2 are already occupied with 2 and 3. Now the other 2 places we have to choose, and it has to be chosen from 1, 2, 3. So guys, what we need to do is nothing but we need to make all those possible cases which are there, and then for all cases we'll be counting the total number of numbers which are formed, and this way we'll be able to calculate the total number of 4-digit number that can be formed. Now, since I know I have to choose between 1, 2, 3, and we are supposed to choose 2 more numbers, so one way of looking at it is nothing but those 2 numbers that we have to choose out of these 1, 2, 3 are same, or the second case is going to be they are distinct. Now, if I say they are same, so we can have either 1, 1 or 2, 2 or 3, 3. Now, this is the case when the remaining 2 digits are same. Now, if I say the other 2 digits are distinct, then the possible number of ways will be nothing but either I can pick 1 and 2, or I can pick 1 with 3, or I can pick 2 with 3. So therefore, for the remaining 2 same, these are the 3 cases. For the remaining 2 to be distinct, these are the 3 cases. So what we're going to do is nothing but I know these 2 are fixed. So the first case is going to be nothing but 2, 3, and then these are the 2 ones which are there. So I'm just writing it 2, 3 and 2 ones are there. These are the 4 number that we have picked. Total number of arrangement, if I need to calculate, out of 4, 2 are alike. So it will be nothing but 4 factorial upon 2 factorial, because 2 ones are same, which eventually comes out to be nothing but 12 is the answer. Second case, with these 2 and 3, the other are 2. So that means out of 4, 3 are alike. So therefore, total number will be nothing but 4 factorial upon 3 factorial, which is coming out to be nothing but 4. That's the second case. I mean, the second case of the first, which is the remaining 2 are same. If I say 2 and 3 and the other 2 are same, it is same as the earlier one. Now here all 3 are there and one number is 2. Therefore, the number or the total number of ways will be again same, which is coming out to be nothing but 4. So that means if the remaining 2 digits are same, we have total 20 cases which are there. So we have taken all these 3. Now, if I talk about the remaining 2 are distinct, so that means one case is going to be 1, 2, along with we have got 2 and 3, because they have to be there. With 1, 3, we have got again 2 and 3, and with 2, 3 again we have got 2 and 3. So for the first case, 1, 2, 2, 3, out of 4, 2 are same. So it is same as the first 4 factorial upon 2 factorial, which is coming out to be nothing but again equals to 12. When I talk about the case wherein 1, 3, 2, 3, that means again out of 4, 2 are same. So the answer will be same as the earlier one, which is going to be 4 factorial upon 2 factorial, which is again coming out to be 12. The last case, when 2 2s and 2 3s are there, so the total number of arrangement will be 4 factorial divided by 2 factorial, because 2 2s are same, and again divide by 2 factorial because 2 3s are also same. So therefore, if it is if we solve it, it will come out to be nothing but 12 upon 4, which is 6 is the answer. So in total, 12 plus 12 plus 6, that is 30 cases are there, for when the remaining two are distinct, and 20 were there when remaining two were same. So in total, the total number of possible 4-digit number will be equals to 50, and that is my answer. Right, guys? So this is how we'll be able to solve and get the answer for this. Yeah, question number 2, it says, let ABCD be a parallelogram. The length of the side AD and diagonal AC are 10 and 20 centimeter respectively. Okay. And angle is given, ADC is 30°, then the area of the parallelogram, right? Now we know parallelogram, opposite sides are parallel and equal. Let's say this is A, B, C, D is a parallelogram, and they've given that length of the side AD and diagonal AC. Okay. So this diagonal AC, this is given as 10 and this diagonal is given as 20, and okay, and this angle ADC is given as 30°, and we are supposed to identify what is the area of the parallelogram. So if it is 10, this is also 10. Let's say this side is X, so this is also X. So I know if I'm able to know the value of X, so the area of parallelogram will be nothing but product of two side into sine theta. Therefore it is AD into DC into sine of 30. This is what I need to calculate. Now I know AD is 10. DC is something I need to calculate into sine 30 is 1 by 2, which is coming out to be nothing but 5 times of DC. That is the value of the area. So basically now it all boils down to calculate the value of DC, and once I know the value of DC, my job will be done. Now to calculate the length of DC, if I look at triangle ABC, in triangle ADC, now two sides and one angle is given and we are supposed to identify the third side. So I can apply the concept of cosine rule, which says cos of 30 is equals to 10 square plus x square minus 20 square upon 2 into 10 into x. So from here, I'll be able to calculate the value of x and my job will be done, which is equal to DC. Now cos 30 is nothing but root 3 by 2. That is equals to x square minus 300 upon 20x. Now this 2 tens are 20. Now after solving, it will come out with nothing but x square minus 300 minus 10 root 3 is equal to 0, right? So basically I've got an equation which is x square minus 10 root 3 minus 300 equal to 0, and I need to calculate what are the value of x. Okay, now it's a quadratic equation. If I need to identify, this is 10 root 3x, sorry. So if I need to calculate the value of x, I know it is nothing but using the Sridharacharya formula, which says x equals to minus b, which is 10 root 3 plus minus root of b square. Now 10 square into 3, that's going to be 300 minus 4 times minus 300 upon 2a. A is 1. So therefore x will become 10 root 3 plus minus root of 1500 upon 2. Now we will not take the minus because that will give me the side as negative, which is not possible. So therefore x is coming out to be nothing but 10 root 3 plus, now root 1500 can be written as 10 root 15 upon 2, which is equals to 5 times of root 3 plus root 15. Now that is the value of x, which is actually AD, sorry, which is DC. Which is DC. Now I know the value of DC. So the area will be nothing but just plug in that DC out here. So it is nothing but area will be equals to 5 times of this value, which is 5 root 3 plus 5 root 15, which is coming out to be 25 times of root 3 plus root 15, which is option number 1 is the answer. The question was not tough. It was direct application of cosine rule and the area of parallelogram, right? Okay, so this is how we'll be able to calculate and get an answer to this question. Let's look at question number 3. Bank A offers 6% interest rate per annum compounded half yearly. Bank B and C offers simple interest, but annual rate offered by Bank C is twice that of Bank B. Okay, so A offers 6% and B and C are simple interest, and for C it is twice that of B. Okay, Raju invests a certain amount in a bank B for a certain period, and Rupa invests 10,000 rupees in bank C for twice the period. Okay, the interest that would accrue to Raju during that period is equal to the interest that would have accrued had he invested the same amount in bank A for 1 year. The interest accrued in INR to Rupa is, okay, so the data says that bank A gives you 6% compounded half yearly. Bank B offers simple interest at certain rate, let's say R%, and Bank C offers double the rate. Now, they've also mentioned that Raju invests in Bank B for a certain period, let's say T years, while Rupa invests in Bank C for twice the period for which Raju has invested. Okay. And now they've also given you one information which is very, very important. The interest earned to Raju during the period is equal to the interest that would have accrued had he invested the same amount in Bank A for 1 year. Now, Bank A gives you 6% compounded half yearly. So effective rate of interest for Bank A for 1 year will be nothing but there are two interests of 3% which are obtained at the end of every 6 months. So that means whatever the principal, it's going to be 3% for the first 6 months, followed by 3% for another 6 months. So therefore, at the end of the year, effectively, the net interest will be A plus B plus AB by 100. We can calculate with the help of successive change formula, which is coming out to be nothing but 6.09%. So that means had Raju invested his entire sum in Bank A, he would have got the same amount of interest at the end of 1 year, the same amount that he's getting by investing the money in Bank B at a rate of R% for 3 years. So therefore, what I can say is nothing but rate of interest into time period for 1 year, that is as good as 6.09% for Raju. Right. Okay. Now, if you talk about Rupa invested at a rate of 2% for twice the time period. So therefore, her effective percentage return will be nothing but 2R into 2T, which is coming out to be 4 times of RT, which is coming out to be nothing but 24.36%. So effective interest that Rupa will be getting will be 24.36% of the principal, whatever Rupa has invested. Now, since it is given that Rupa invested 10,000 rupees, so therefore Rupa will be getting 24.36% of the principal that is invested, which is equals to 24.36% of 10,000, which is 2,436, which is the answer to this question. Therefore, option number 3 is the right answer. Question number 4. The cost of fencing a rectangular plot is rupees 200 per feet along one side and rupees 100 per feet along the 3 other side. Okay. So if the area of the rectangular plot is 60,000 square feet, then the lowest possible cost of fencing all 4 sides in INR is, okay, we're supposed to identify. They've given you that there is a rectangular plot and the cost is 200 along one side, while the remaining 3 side the cost is 100 rupees per feet. Okay, right. And we need to minimize the cost if it is written that the area is 60,000. Okay. Let's say the sides are A, B, C, D, right? And assume this length to be A and this is to be B. Since I need to minimize the cost, let's say for this side, the cost is 200 rupees per feet, while for the other 3 side is going to be 100. Okay. And they have also given that area, that is A into B, is given as 60,000. Okay. And I know for the sides A and B, that is 2A plus B, the cost of fencing is rupees 100 per feet, while for the side B, the cost is 200 per feet. So the total cost will be nothing but 2A plus B into 100 plus B into 200. That will be total cost which will be incurred for this fencing. Now, which is coming out to be nothing but if you solve 200A plus 100B plus 200B is going to be 300B. Okay. So I need to minimize this cost, which can also be rewritten as, if I take 100 common, so it is coming out to be nothing but 2A plus 3B. So what I need to do is nothing but I need to minimize this value 2A plus 3B so that my total cost, which is 100 times of this, will be minimized, right? And I know they have given you that A into B is 60,000, right? So let me do it here. Product is constant, that is A into B, and we need to minimize the value of 2A plus 3B. So what we can do is nothing but we can use the concept of AMGM where arithmetic mean is always greater than equal to geometric mean. Now, if the two numbers are 2A and 3B, so their arithmetic mean will be 2A plus 3B by 2 is greater than equals to geometric mean of the two numbers will be nothing but square root of 2A into 3B. So therefore, I can say 2A plus 3B is always greater than equal to twice of root 6 into A into B. And I know the value of A into B is nothing but 60,000. So if you plug in that value, it is greater than equal to twice of root 60,000 into 6, that is 36, followed by 40. If you take the square root of that, this is coming out to be nothing but 600. So therefore, 2A plus 3B is always greater than equals to 1200. So that means if I need to minimize this 2A plus 3B, so the minimum value for that is going to be nothing but 1200 is the minimum value for 2A plus 3B. Now, I know if this is minimum, the total cost, which is 100 times of that, will also be minimum, which is 100 times of 1200, which is coming out to be nothing but 1 lakh 20,000, which is the option number 1, right? So the question was not tough. It was nothing but the application of AMGM, and using that, we are able to solve this. We are able to solve this. Let's look at question number 5. For a real number A, if log of a to the base 15 plus log of a to the base 32 upon log of a to the base 15 into log of 4 to the base 32 is equals to 4, then a must lie in the range. So we need to identify the range for a, right? So I know the base are 15 and 32. So let's make the bases same by writing, because I know log a to the base b is equals to 1 upon log b to the base a. So the first term can be rewritten as 1 upon log 15 to the base a plus 1 upon log 32 to the base a. This is the numerator, and denominator is again with the same logic, can be written as 1 upon log 15 to the base a multiplied with 1 upon log 32 to the base a. Now take the LCM in the numerator. So what I end up is getting math, it will become log of 32 to the base a plus log of 15 to the base a upon product of this and product of this will get cancelled. So we in turn getting only this term upon 1 as the value, which can be rewritten as, because it is given as equal to 4. So I know log a plus log b, log a plus log b is nothing but log a into b. With the same, I can rewrite it as 32 into 15 to the base a is equals to 4, which is equals to log of 32 into 15 is 320 plus 160, which is 480 to the base a is equals to 4. So therefore 480 is equals to a to the power 4. Now we know that log a to the base b equals to c. So therefore I can say a equals to b to the power c, the very basic formula that we have used. So now we are looking out for what is the range for a, and they've given you the option as also. So I need to identify what are the upper and lower limit. Because of that, I'll be able to identify what is that value which will satisfy. So if I take a equal to 3 to the power 4, I know is going to be 81. So a has to be greater than 3. If I take a equals to 4, so 4 to the power 4 is nothing but 4 square is 16, 16 square is 256. So again, a has to be greater than 4. This is what I got to know. Now, if I take a equal to 5, so 5 to the power 4, if I need to calculate, so 5 to the power 4 is nothing but 5 square 25 to the power 2, which is going to be 625. So I know it is nothing but less. So therefore, I can say a has to be greater than 4, but it is going to be less than. So value lies between 4 and 5, and this is what we are supposed to identify. Therefore, option number 4 is the answer to this question, right guys? So the question was not tough. The only thing is, this is how I need to solve it. Right guys, look at question number 6. It says if n is a positive integer such that 7th root of 10 into 7th root of 10 square and so on so forth is greater than 999, then the smallest value of n is, we are supposed to identify what is smallest value of n, right? Okay, so let's say 7th root of 10, it can be rewritten as 10 to the power 1 by 7. Next term will be 10 to the power 1 by 7 whole to the power 2, and so on so forth. The last term is going to be 10 to the power 1 by 7 whole to the power n, and I want that value to be greater than 999, and it is given that n is a positive integer. So I know since base is same and the powers, because the values are in multiplication, so power will get added. Therefore, it can be rewritten as 10 to the power 1 by 7 whole to the power 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 and so on so forth till n. This value has to be greater than 999. Now, 10 to the power 1 by 7 and sum of n natural number is going to be n into n plus 1 by 2. I want this value to be greater than this, which can be written as 10 to the power n into n plus 1 upon 7 into 2 becomes 14, and this has to be greater than 19. Now I know 10 to the power 1 is 10, 10 to the power 2 is going to be 100, and 10 cube is going to be 1000. So therefore, I want that power of 10 should be such that this value exceeds 999. So can I say n into n plus 1 upon 14 has to be greater than or equal to 3? Can I say so or not? Because the moment it will become 3, the value will become 1000, which is more than 990. So I want it to be greater than equal to 3. So if I actually solve it, it will come out to be nothing but n into n plus 1 is greater than equal to 42, where n is a positive integer. Now that is something which we need to keep an eye on. So if what should be the value of n such that it will become greater than 42, equal to 42? So if I take n equal to 1, 1 into 2 is going to be 2. If I take n equal to 4, let's say 4 into 5 is 20. Again, we need to take it more. 5 into 6 is 30. 6 into 7 is equal to 42. And which is what I need. So therefore, if I place n equal to 5, I'm getting a value which is less than this. And the moment I place n equal to 6, so 6 into 7 is actually coming out to be equal to 42, and which is I'm looking out for. So therefore, minimum possible or a smallest possible value of n, considering it being a positive integer, so n is equal to 6 is my answer to this question. Right, guys? So this is how we will be able to solve this and get the answer for this. Right. Look at question number 7. It says in a triangle ABC, angle BCA is given as 50. D and E are the points on AB and AC respectively, such that AD equals to DE. Right. And if F is the midpoint on BC such that BD equal to DF, and we're supposed to identify what is the measure of angle FDE. So better is to make a figure, guys, first. It says triangle ABC. So let's make it. Let's say this is a triangle ABC, and they've given that measure of angle BCA is 50. So let's assume this angle is 50 degree. Now they've given there is a point D on this, AB, and E on AC, such that they have given that AD and DE are same. And similarly, there's a point F such that BD and DF are also same. And we are supposed to identify measure of this angle, which is angle FDE. Assume, let's say, this is angle Z that I'm supposed to calculate is angle Z, right? Okay. So I know since AD and DE are same, so therefore these two angles are also same, assuming that value to be X each. And similarly, since DB and DF both are same, so therefore these two angles are also same. Let's assume that to be Y, right? Now I know in a triangle ABC, sum of three angles is 180. Therefore, X plus Y plus 50 is equals to 180 degree. So therefore, I can straight away say X plus Y equals to 130 degree. That is one information which we have obtained, right? Okay. Now we are supposed to identify the measure of angle FD, which is Z. So I know angle ADE plus angle FDE plus angle BDF. Sum of all three angles of a straight line, sum should be equals to 180 degree. Now ADE, that is third angle of a triangle ADE, will be nothing but 180 degree minus twice of X, because sum of three angle in that triangle is 180. FDE, we have assumed that to be Z, and angle BDF, this angle will also be equals to 180 minus twice of angle Y. and their summation is given as 180 degree. Now, if you simplify, it will come out to be nothing but 360 minus twice of x plus y plus z is equals to 180 degree. Now we know the value of x plus y is equals to 130 degree. Just plug in that value out here. So 360 minus 2 into 130, that's going to be 260 plus z is equals to 180 degree, which implies that z is coming out to be nothing but 180 minus 100, that is equals to 80 degree, which is actually angle FDE that we are supposed to calculate. So therefore, angle FDE is equals to 80 degree, which is an answer to the question. So quite straightforward, and this is how we need to solve it. Right. Question number 8. It says Anil can paint a house in 12 days while Barun can paint it in 16 days. Anil and Barun and Chandu undertake to paint the house for a rupee 24,000 and the three of them together complete the painting in 6 days. Now, if Chandu is paid in proportion to the work done by him, then the amount of INR received by him is okay. So there are three people, Anil, Barun and Chandu. So it is basically A completes the task in 12 days. This is what they have given. While B, Barun complete the same task in 16 days. It is not given for C, but together they undergo and complete the task in 6 days. And the total they are paid 24,000 rupees as against the work done. So we need to identify what is the share of C. Now what we'll do is nothing but we'll try and identify what portion of the total work is done by C, or in one day, if I calculate the number of unit of work done by ABC, so what is the share of C in that work basically? So the best way is nothing but using the approach of LCM. So 12 and 16 and 6 is also there. So LCM of 12, 16 and 6 is going to be nothing but it is 48. So let's assume that total work to be done is going to be 48 unit. This way you will be eventually able to solve these kind of question without even picking up pen also, right? So let's say assume total work to be 48 unit. So A complete the task in 12 days. Therefore, A's 1 day work is going to be 48 by 12, which is 4 unit. While B's 1 day work is going to be nothing but 3 unit. C's 1 day work, I don't know, but together they complete the task in 6 days. So therefore, total work done by A and B in 1 day is going to be 7. So in total, A will complete, A and B together will do 42 unit of work in those 6 days, because every day they do 7 unit. So 6 days, 7 into 6, 42. So therefore, in order to complete the task in 6 days, remaining work has to be done by C in 6 days, which is 6 unit. So C does 6 unit of work in 6 days. C does 6 unit of work in 6 days. So therefore, C's per day work we have calculated is going to be 1 unit per day, because this is how we'll be able to calculate by the unitary method. So that means out of the total 48 unit of work done by C will be 6. So the proportion of the income which will be given to C will be 6 by 48, which is 1 by 8 of the entire value, which is 24,000, which is coming out to be nothing but 3,000, which is my answer to this question. We can also calculate that C does 1 unit of work in 1 day, and the total work done in 1 day is going to be 8 unit. So C's share will be 1 by 8 of the total value, and that 1 by 8 of the total value will again come out to be nothing but the answer is 3,000, and that is the answer to the given question. Right. Look at question number 9. It says arithmetic mean of scores of 25 student in examination is 50. So that means arithmetic mean is given as 50. So sum of those number is going to be 25 into 50, which is 1250 is the sum of those. Okay. 5 of these student tops the examination with the same score. So out of 25, okay, 5 have got the same score. If the score of the other students are distinct integers with the lowest being 30, then the maximum possible score of the topper is, okay. So we need to maximize the score of the topper, and we know the score cannot be less than 30. So therefore, every student has got a score, either it is 30 or more than that. Since I want to maximize the score of the top 5 students who have got the same score, so therefore, remaining students have got score as less as possible. Now, since it has to be distinct positive integer, so let's assume scores are 30, 31, 32, and so on and so forth till 49 are the, in total we have got 20 integers, and these are the minimum possible value that I can take. So if I assume these are the scores of the 20 students who have got the least possible scores, so the remaining 5 students will have automatically the highest possible sum. So let's try and identify what is the possible sum for the top 5 student, which is equals to 1250 minus sum of these values. So these are the 20 natural numbers, and the sum of 20 terms in an AP is nothing but n by 2 into first term plus the last term. So therefore, number of terms are 20. So 20 by 2 is 10 into first term is 30 and the last term is 49. So which is equals to 790. These are the sum of the 20 students who have scored from 30 to 49. So therefore, remaining sum of the scores of 5 students will be 1250 minus 790, which is coming out to be nothing but 460. So this is the sum of the 5 students, and since each have got the same score, so therefore I can straight away say 5x equal to 460. So therefore x is coming out to be 460 upon 5, which is 5 9s are 45, 5 2s are. So therefore we can say the value of the top or the maximum possible score is going to be 92, which is my answer to this question, right? So again, the application of basic arithmetic mean, and question is straightforward. Question number 10, it says f of x is x square minus 7x and g of x is given as x plus 3, and we are supposed to identify the minimum value of f of gx minus 3x. Okay, now when I say f of gx, it is nothing but simply replace x with gx in the function fx. So if I replace x with gx in the function fx, it will come out to be nothing but gx square minus 7 times of gx, right? So this is f of gx. Now we are supposed to identify the minimum value of f of gx minus 3x. So first of all, calculate what is f of gx, which is coming out to be nothing but x plus 3, because I know gx is x plus 3 square minus 7 times of x plus 3. Now it is coming out to be nothing but x square plus 6x x square plus 6x plus 9 minus 7x minus 21, which can be rewritten as x square minus x minus 12. Now this is the value of f of gx. Now we need to minimize f of gx minus this. So that means, which is coming out to be nothing but f of gx minus 3 will be x square minus x minus 12 minus 3x, which is equals to x square minus 4x minus 12, and we need to minimize this basically. Now there are two ways by making the perfect square, and we can do it, right? Which is nothing but it can be rewritten as x minus 2 whole square. Just take half of the coefficient of this, right? So if I expand it, it will become x square minus 4x plus 4. Now I have, what I've done is nothing but I've written this in this perfect square. So since it is plus 4, so we need to write minus 4, and minus 12 was already there, which is this. So therefore, this can be rewritten as x minus 2 square minus 16. And we are supposed to identify what is the minimum value of this. Since this value is a perfect square, therefore we cannot have this as negative. So the minimum value for this is going to be nothing but 0. If this is 0, so the minimum value of the entire expression, will become minus 16, which is my answer. From here, if I need to calculate, we can also compare it with ax square plus bx plus c. And since we are supposed to identify its minimum value, so minimum value will be obtained when you plug in x equals to minus b by 2a. Now, if you compare this equation with the ax square plus bx plus c, we end up getting b is coming out to be minus 4. So it is going to be minus 4 upon a is equals to 1. So therefore it is 1 into 2, which is coming out to be nothing but 2. So the moment you plug in x equals to 2 in this equation, you'll get the minimum value of the expression, which is coming out to be nothing but 2 square minus 4 into 2 minus 12, which is coming out to be nothing but minus 16, which is the answer to this question. So both ways we can do it. If we are comfortable in making that perfect square and do it, we can do it. Otherwise, we can always use the approach minus b by. So question 11, it says Meera and Amal walk along a circular track starting from the same point at the same time. If they walk in the same direction, then in 45 minutes, Amal completes exactly 3 more rounds than Meera. If they walk in the opposite direction, then they meet for the first time exactly after 3 minutes. The number of rounds Meera walk in 1 hour is. Right. So when these two people, Meera and Amal, on this circular track, if they move in the same direction, Amal and Meera, so in 45 minutes, Amal completes exactly 3 more rounds. So we know that when two persons are moving in the same direction, to meet for the first time, faster runner has to cover 1 extra round than the slow runner. I'm just writing it. To meet for the first time, whosoever is the faster runner has to complete 1 extra round than the slower runner. So therefore, we can conclude after 45 minutes, since faster runner Amal has covered 3 more rounds than Meera, so therefore Amal and Meera must have met for 3 times. In other words, I can say if Meera has taken n rounds in 45 minutes, then the number of rounds taken by Amal in that span of 45 minutes will be n plus 3. So that's one data we'll be able to obtain from this. Now, if they walk in the opposite direction, then they complete or they meet for the first time exactly after 3 minutes. So I know in that span of 3 minutes, since they are meeting, let me make it here, they are meeting after 3 minutes. So that means, can I say in that span of 3 minutes, together they will complete 1 round? In that span of 3 minutes, together they'll complete 1 round. So that means in 3 minutes, together they will complete 1 round, because some portion will be covered by Meera and the remaining will be covered by Amal. So that means together they complete that 1 round in 3 minutes, right? So can I say in 3 minutes, if they complete 1 round, therefore in 45 minutes, which is 15 times of that, together they will complete 15 rounds. Together they'll complete. So one thing I got to know, since in 45 minutes, if they are moving the same direction, so Mira has covered n round while the Amal has completed n plus 3 round. While moving in the opposite direction, together they have completed 15 round. Since the distance traveled by both Amal and Mira together in that 45-minute span is going to be same. So therefore, number of rounds taken by Amal and Mira should be equals to 15 because the distance would be same. So therefore I can say 2n plus 3 is equals to 15, or 2n is coming out to be 12, therefore n is coming out to be 6. So that means in a span of 45 minutes, Amal has completed 6 plus 3, that is 9 round, while Mira has completed 6 round in 45 minutes, and together they've taken 15 round, which is also given. So the question says number of rounds walks in 1 hour by Mira. So I can apply the unitary method in 45 minutes. Mira has completed 6 round. So in 1 minute, the number of rounds completed will be 6 by 45. And in that span of 60 minutes, so it will be nothing but 6 by 45 into 60, which is coming out to be nothing but 8 is my answer, right? Okay. So therefore, we'll be able to get the answer for this is going to be 8, which is the answer to this question, right, guys? So this is how we'll be able to calculate it. Question number 12. A park is shaped like a rhombus and has a area of 96 square meter. If 40 meter of the fencing is needed to enclose the park, so the perimeter is given as 40, the cost in INR of laying electric wires along its two diagonals at the rate of 125 rupees per meter. So we need to identify what is the sum of the length of the two diagonals, right? So we know in the case of a rhombus, so diagonals are perpendicular bisector of each other. So let's make this rhombus. Assuming this figure to be rhombus, let's say, and one of the diagonal is this, and the other diagonal is this. Now we know diagonals are perpendicular bisector of each other. Let's say this point is A, B, C, and D. This point is O. Assume that the BO is X and this is also X, while the other two lengths OC are Y and AO is also Y. Center is O. So perimeter is 40. So it is given that the side of each is going to be 10 as rhombus as all sides equal. So the two diagonals are nothing but 2x and 2y. So what we need to identify is nothing but sum of the length of the two diagonals. So that will be the total length wherein we need to lay the electric wires. And the cost is going to be 125 per meter. So multiplying that will give me the answer for this. So basically it all boils down to identify the length of the diagonal. Now we know in the case of a rhombus, diagonals are perpendicular bisector of each other. So therefore I know applying the Pythagoras theorem to triangle BOC, I end up getting x square plus y square is equals to 100, which is 10 square, right? And I also know they've mentioned that area is 96 and area is nothing but half into product of two diagonals. So I know that area is equals to half into d1 into d2 in the case of a rhombus. So half into one of the diagonal is 2x, the other is 2y, and their product is given as 96. So this 2 will cancel here. So I end up getting 2xy is equals to 96. So these are the two information. These are the two information which are given. That is x square plus y square is 100 and 2xy is equals to 96. And basis that I need to identify what is the value of x and y. So I know x plus y square is equals to x square plus y square plus 2xy, which is coming out to be nothing but 100 plus 96, that is going to be 196, which gives me that x plus y is equals to 14, because 14 square is this. And similarly, x minus y square is equals to x square plus y square minus 2xy, which is coming out to be 100 minus 96, which is 4. And therefore, x minus y is equals to square root of 4, which is 2. So that means I've got this equation which says x plus y is 14 and x minus y is 2. So if I add these two, 1 plus 2, I end up getting 2x is equals to 16. So therefore, x will come out to be 8. While subtracting, I end up getting 2y as 12. So therefore, y is coming out to be 6. So that means I know the length of x and y as 8 and 6. Now what I need to calculate is nothing but 2x plus 2y into 125. 2x plus 2y is equals into 125. So 2x will become 16 and 2y will become 12. So 2x will become 16 while 2y will become 12, and this multiply by 125 will give me the answer for this. So that is what we can do is nothing but I'm just writing it here. That's gonna be 28 into 125, right? So 28 into 125, which can be written as 28 into 100 plus 100 by 4. So 2800 plus 2800 by 4, that's going to be 700. So therefore, 2800 plus 700, that is equal to 3500 is my answer. I mean, you can always multiply 28 with 125, and we can also do using this approach, and we'll get the answer. Question number 13. In a tournament, a team has played 40 matches so far and won 30% of them. Okay, out of 40, 30% won, right? If they win 60% of the remaining matches, then their overall win percentage will be 50%. Suppose they win 90% of the remaining matches, then the total number of matches won by the team in the tournament will be. Now, initially, they have stated that team has played 40 and won 30% of that. So therefore, 30% of 40 is going to be 12. So that means as of now, out of the 40 matches, team has won 12. If they won 60% of the remaining matches, now let us assume, we can assume remaining matches to be 10x or any value. The reason why I assume value to be 10x, so that 60% of that will be nothing but 6x, and therefore number of matches won will be 6x, because I always try to keep myself away from the decimal. Had I taken x, it would have been 0.6x. Can do that, but then I would always try and keep myself away from that. So therefore, from the remaining matches which were 10x, I end up getting number of matches won is equal to 6x, okay, which is 60%. And now they stated the overall percentage will be 50. That means with this, the total number of matches is going to be 12. Total of matches 1 will be equal to 12 earlier plus 6x out of the total number of matches, which is 40 plus 10x. And they have stated that this is equal to 50%. So when I say this is equal to 50%, that means this will become 1 by 2. So I end up getting 24 plus 12x is equals to 40 plus 10x. So therefore, I get 2x as 16 or x as 8. If I say x as 8, I assume total number of matches two people played after that is going to be 10x. So which is coming out to be nothing but 80. Right. Now this says, suppose they won 90% of the remaining matches. That means, let us say 90% of the remaining matches, that is 80. So 90% of 80 is going to be nothing but 72. So that means now out of 80, had they win 72 matches, now they're asking the total number of matches won by the team in the tournament. So now they have won 72, earlier they have won 12. So therefore, 12 plus 72, that is equals to 84, is the answer to this question, which is option number 2. That is my answer. So quite straightforward, and this is how we need to process to get the answer of. Let's look at question number 14. It says the total of male and female population in a city increased by 25% from 1970 to 1980. Okay, so from 1970 to 1980, so total population, which is male plus female, increases by 25%. During the same period, the male population increases by 40%, while the female population increases by 20%. So the average increase is 25%, and for individual, they've given as 40 and 20. Okay, this is from 1970 to 80. From 80 to 90, 1980 to 1990, the female population increases by 25%. In 1990, that means after that, the female population becomes twice of the male population in 1990. Okay. Then the percentage increase in the total of male and female population from 1970 to 1990 is something that they are asking. Okay. So some information is given from 1970 to 80, then 80 to 90 only for female. And based on that, resultant is going to be female is going to be twice of male. And then we are supposed to identify what is the overall change. Now, one thing I know, if male population increased by 40 and the female increased by 20 and their average increase is 25%. So with the help of allegation, we can actually calculate male is 40%, female is 20%, and the average increase is 25%. So can we say we can calculate 25 minus 20, that is 5, while this difference is 15. So I can straight away say 5 is to 15 is nothing but 1 is to 3. That means male and female population before that increase of 40 and 20% respectively was in the ratio 1 is to 3. 1 is to 3. That means in 1970, if I need to assume male population, so I will say it is going to be, let's say 100x. So the female population will be equals to 300x. This is the value in 1970, right? Okay. Now female population we know increases by 20%. Therefore, from that 300x, there's an increase of 20%. Therefore, the value will become 360x. While for female, I've assumed that value to be 100x. So therefore, that will become 140x at the end of 1980 or in the year 1980. Now, they've given that from 80 to 90, female population increases by 25%. So that means in 80, we have just calculated the female population to be 360x. And now this increases by 25%, which is 1/4 of this, which is 90x. So if I increase that by 90x, it will come out to be nothing but 450x. Right? So that means in 1990, female population is 450x. And they've also given that it is equals to twice of the male population in 1990. Therefore, male population in 1990 will be equals to half of this, which is 225x. So that means I got to know this is male population in 1990. This is the female population in 1990. So together, if I add these two values, it is coming out to be nothing but male plus female population in 1990 is equal to 675. Now the question says we are supposed to identify what is the overall increase from 70 to 90. So in this 70, we have taken that value to be 100 and 300. Therefore, the total population was 400x. And now this was in 1970. And now it becomes 675. The question says, what is the percentage increase? I know that change is going to be 275x upon the base value, which is 400x into 100. Okay, so we can cancel x and 100 into 4, and then it is 4 6 are 24, 4 8s are 32.75, which is an answer to this question. 68.75, and therefore option number 1 is the answer. Let's look at question number 15. It says consider a sequence of real number x1, x2, x3 till such that x of n plus 1 equals to xn plus n minus 1. Now this is something that's important. How this is formed: x of n plus 1 is equals to x of n plus n minus 1 for all n greater than 1. And they have also given that x of 1 is equals to minus 1, then x of 100 is something we need to calculate. So we've seen that these kind of questions in the mocks also. So we always have to make pattern so that we'll be able to understand that pattern and we can extrapolate till the value which is required. So question says, it says x of n plus 1 is equals to x of n plus n minus 1, right? So just plug in n. This is for n greater than or equal to 1, and they've also given that x of 1 is equals to minus 1. So if I plug n equal to 1, so it'll become x of 2, that is equals to x1 plus 1 minus 1, which is coming out to be nothing but x1 is nothing but minus 1. So minus 1 plus 0, and that is equals to minus 1. So I end up getting x of 2 is equals to minus 1. Similarly, you plug in n equal to 2, I end up getting x3, that is going to be nothing but equal to x2 plus 2 minus 1, which is 1. 2 minus 1 is 1, which is coming out to be nothing but x2 is minus 1 plus 1, which is equal to 0. So I end up getting, plug in n equal to 2, I get it is 0. Plug in n equal to 3, it will become x of 4, that is going to be nothing but x of 3 plus 3 minus 1, because n equal to 3, and I know x of 3 is equal to 0, so therefore it will come out to be nothing but 0 plus 2, which is equals to 2. N equal to 4, it will come out to nothing but x of 5, which is x of 4 plus 4 minus 1, which is 2 plus 3, and that is equals to 5. So there is a change of 3 from 3 to 4. Let's just write down one more value. N equal to 5 will become x by 6, which is coming out to be nothing but x of 5 plus 5 minus 1. X of 5 was nothing but 5 plus 4, that is equals to 9. So there's an increase of 3, increase of 4. We can say the next increase is going to be nothing but of 5, and the value will become 14, which can also be seen by plug-in n equal to 6. I end up getting this, that is x of 6 plus 6 minus 1, that is 9 plus 5, that is going to be 14. So I got the pattern. Okay, so this 2 plus 5 is nothing but 2 plus 3. Next increase of 4, that makes it 2 plus 3 plus 4. Next increase of 5, therefore it is 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5. Now this is the value for x of 7. Now one thing I got to know, for x of 7 the number of terms are 4. For x of 6 the number of terms are 3. Therefore I can say for x of 100, for x of 100, the number of terms will be, for x of 100, the number of terms when I need to calculate, it is going to be 3 less. So therefore number of terms will be nothing but 97, which will start with 2 plus 3, it will go till 98. So basically x of 100 that we are supposed to calculate is going to be right from 2 till 98, sum of all natural numbers. So which can be rewritten as add 1 and subtract 1. So 1 plus 2 plus 3 till 98. minus 1. So I added 1, subtracted 1. So sum of n natural number is going to be n into n plus 1 by 2 minus 1. So just simplifying it, 2, it is going to be 49. So 49 to 99, which is nothing but 49 into 100 minus 1. So that's going to be 4900 minus 49 minus 1. So that's going to be 4900 minus 50, which eventually comes out to be 4850, which is the answer to this question. So basically we need to form pattern in these kind of a question. And once you're able to understand the pattern, the question will be very, very easy, because after that it is all about just looking out number of terms that we need to take and finally solve this. Right. Question number 16. If a certain weight of an alloy of silver and copper is mixed with 3 kg of pure silver, the resulting alloy will have a 90% silver by weight. Okay. If the same weight of the initial alloy is mixed with 2 kg of another alloy, which has 90% silver by weight, the resultant is 84% silver by weight. Okay. Then the weight of the initial alloy in kg is, okay. So let's assume that the initial alloy will have the weight is equals to x kg. And in that case, let's assume that out of those x kg, y kg is the silver, because we have to talk about silver in that, right? Now, when it is mixed with 3 kg of pure silver, the resultant is nothing but 90%. Therefore, we can lead to this, that total weight will become x plus 3 by mixing. So therefore, silver will be 90% of x plus 3, which we know is equals to silver in this is y kg, and here we have got pure silver 3 kg. So therefore, it is equals to y plus 3. So 90% is nothing but 90 by 100, which is 9 by 10. So therefore, 9 by 10 into x plus 3 is equals to y plus 3, which if I take 10 to the right hand side, it will become nothing but 9x plus 27 is equals to 10y plus 30. That is one equation which can be rewritten as, if you take 30 to this side, it will become 9x minus 3x upon 10 is equals to the value of y, right? So it is 9x minus 3. 9x minus 3 upon 10 equal to y. That's one equation that we have got when I mix x kg with 3 kg. Now they've stated if the same alloy x kg is mixed with 2 kg of 90% silver by weight. 2 kg of 90% silver by weight. So therefore, 90% of 2 is going to be nothing, but we are eventually mixing, which has got 1.8 kg of pure silver, right? And after mixing them, we end up getting it's going to be the 84% silver by weight. So therefore, the total weight will be x plus 2. So therefore, I can say 84% of the total, which is x plus 2, is the total amount of silver, which we know is nothing but y kg in that x kg alloy, plus 1.8 kg out here. So if we write 84% as 84 by 100, which is nothing but 21 by 25 into x plus 2 is equals to y plus 1.8. Now after cross multiplying, we end up getting 21x plus 42 is equals to 25y plus 25 into 18. So that's going to be nothing but 45. That's going to be nothing but 45, which can be rewritten as by simplifying 21x minus 3 upon 25 is again the value of y. This is the second equation. Now we have got y as this also and y as this also. So both the values have to be same. So if I write 1 equals to 2, so therefore 9x minus 3 upon 10 is equals to 21x minus 3 upon 25. So 5 2s are 5 5s are, cross multiply will lead to 45x minus 15 is equals to 42x minus 6. So therefore 3x is coming out to be nothing but 9, or x is coming out to be nothing but 3 kg, which is the answer to this question. So you have to go by step. This is how we'll be doing it. But let's say, I mean, if I have to play with the option, because that is also one of those things that we can always apply in order to get an answer in a lesser span of time. So I know I have to identify what is the weight of an alloy, and the 4 options are given. So let's take the first option. If the weight of an alloy is, let's say, assuming 3 kg. Right. Okay. I'm just pick the first option. So what I'll be doing is nothing but pick those options which are complete integral values, so that my calculation is going to be slightly on the easier side. So if I take that value as 3 kg, so I know if I'm mixing that 3 kg of the alloy with 3 kg of pure silver, so in total the weight is going to be 6 kg. And in the question they have mentioned that it has got 90% silver. So I know 90% of 6 is going to be 5.4. So the total weight of silver is going to be 5.4. I know it's going to be a pure silver, which is 3 kg. So therefore, this alloy will have 2.4 kg of silver, and the rest is going to be copper. Now, this same alloy 3 kg, when I mix with 2 kg of another alloy, which has got 90% silver. So now I'm doing it. I'm mixing this with 2 kg with 90% silver. That means 1.8 kg. So if I mix them, the total weight will become nothing but 5 kg, and the amount of silver is going to be 1.8 in this and 2.4 in this, which is coming out to be nothing but 4.2 kg in the total of 5 kg. So I know when I mix them, I'm getting 4.2 kg of silver out of 5. So if I need to calculate its percentage, it is coming out to be nothing but 84%, which they have already given that it is 84%. Therefore, my assumption of 3 is right. So that's the playing with the option technique that we can always do in order to get the answer. So this could have been done using this approach as well, right? Okay, so this is the alternate way of looking at it. Question number 17. A shop owner bought a total of 64 shirts from a wholesale market that came in 2 sizes, small and the large. The price of a small shirt was 50 rupees less than the price of the large shirt. Okay. She paid a total of 5,000 rupees for a large shirt and a total of 1,800 for a small shirt. Then the price of a large shirt and the price of small shirt together is, so the price difference is 50 rupees. So assume that price of a large shirt, let's say, is Y rupees. So therefore, price of the small shirt will be nothing but Y minus 50, because their gap is 50. Now, total expenditure on the large shirt is nothing but 5,000. If the price of per shirt is Y rupees, so therefore I can say the total number of shirts bought of large size will be 5,000, sorry, upon Y, that is the price of one shirt. So these are the total number of large shirts which are purchased. Similarly, total number of small shirts purchase should be equals to nothing but 1,800 is the total expenditure, and the price of one is going to be nothing but Y minus 50, because the price is less by 50. And the total number of shirts of large plus small, they have given that equal to 64. So therefore, this value will be equal to 64. This is the equation with me, and I'm supposed to identify the value of Y. Once I know the value of Y, question says then the price of the large shirt and a small shirt. So therefore, what I need to calculate is nothing but the sum of these two prices, which is 2Y minus 50 is my answer. Now, one way is nothing but I simplify and make a quadratic equation, try and solve it. Second is we can play with the option as well. What we are supposed to identify is nothing but the value of 2Y minus 50. Now, 2Y minus 50 has to be one value out of these, right? Okay. So if I equate it equal to 150, I end up getting 2Y is equals to 200 or Y is equals to 100. So that means if I'm assuming that the sum of the price is this 150, so therefore I end up getting y equal to 100, and therefore y minus 50 will be equals to 50. Now let's try and plug in this value, whether it's satisfied and gives me 64 or not. So 5000 upon 100, that's going to be 50, plus 1800 upon 50, that is coming out to be nothing but 36. So that gives me sum as 86, but I want that sum to be 64. So therefore I can say 150 cannot be my answer. 150 cannot be my answer. Second, if I let's say look at, because I know the price has to be more. The price has to be more. Then only I'll be able to buy less number of shirt than 86, which should come out to be 64. Now, if I have to choose the second value, if I take, let's say 2y minus 50 equals to 175, I end up getting 2y equals to 225, or y is coming out to be a value which is in decimal, which is 112.5. So better is to avoid these kind of value in order to check it. I mean, if there is no option, obviously we'll be doing it. So therefore, rather than using or checking this option, let's look out for an option which will give me a integral value, which is nothing but 200. So let's check it. If 2y minus 50, which is the sum of the price, is equals to 200, so I end up getting 2y equals to 250, or y is coming out to be nothing but 125. So that means in that case, price of one, that y is equals to 125, while the price of other will be y minus 50, and that is equals to 75. So let's try and see what we'll get if I choose this value. So if I plug in y as 125, so the total quantity of the large shirt will be 5000 upon 125. 125 into 4 is 500, so it is coming out to be 40. What about the other one? It is 1800 upon 75. Now 75 twos are 150. 75 twos are 150. So therefore I am left with 30. So therefore it is twos are 150. 30, 300, 75 fours are. So therefore, if I need to solve it with this, I'm getting 24. So 40 of large type, 24 of the small type, which is coming out to be nothing but 64, and which is given in the question as well. So this is how we'll be able to calculate and get the answer for the same, and the answer is going to be nothing but. So therefore, while choosing the option or putting the option choices, we have to ensure that I should be able to do or solve it mentally, or with less number of, I would say, steps, so that I'll be able to get an answer in a lesser span, and I can eliminate the option choices as well. Right, guys? Right. Question number 18, it says, one day Rahul started a work at 9 a.m. and Gautam joined him 2 hours later. Then they worked together and complete the work at 5 p.m. the same day. That means Rahul started at 9, ending at 5. That means Rahul has taken 8 hours. While Gautam started at 11 till 5, he worked for 6 hours, and work is completed. He worked for 6, work is complete. Right. This is one instance. While if both have started at 9 a.m., they work together, the work would have been completed 30 minutes earlier. So working alone, the time taken by Rahul would have taken in hours to complete the work. So we are supposed to identify if Rahul is doing all alone, then the time taken by Rahul to do the same task is okay. Now we can say one instance, Rahul worked for 8 hours, Gautam worked for 6 hours, and work is completed. Second is Rahul worked for 7.5 hours, while Gautam worked for 7.5 hours and work is completed. So that means in both the case work is completed. So from this we need to calculate the efficiency of Rahul as well as Gautam, right? So one way of looking at it is nothing but, let's say Rahul completes the work in R hours while Gautam completes the work in G hours. So I know Rahul worked for 8 hours while, let me write it again. 1 hour Rahul will do 1 by R. So in 8 hours Rahul will do 8 by R. Gautam will do 6 by G and work is finished. Therefore, in fractional approach, we assume total work to be 1 and therefore it is 1. While the second instance is 7.5 by R plus 7.5 by G is also equals to 1. That means work is completed. So if I equate these two equation, I end up getting 0.5 hour upon R is equals to 1.5 upon G. That means G is to R is coming out to be 1.5 upon 0.5, which is 3:1. So ratio of time taken by Gautam and Rahul is in the ratio 3:1, right? Okay. So if the ratio of time taken is 3:1, so that means I can say ratio of work done by Gautam and Rahul will be reciprocal of that, which is going to be nothing but 1:3. This is the ratio of work done or the efficiency basically in the same amount of time, right. So now once I'm able to get to know this, so that means I can assume that if in 1 hour Gautam does X unit of work, then Rahul will do 3 times of that, which is going to be 3x, Now Gautam works for 6 hours, therefore he completes 6x, while Rahul in 8 hours complete 24x. So in total 30x is the total work which is done by Rahul and Gautam. Now question says, if Rahul has to work all alone, then the time taken. Now we know that Rahul does 3x unit of work per hour. So in order to complete 30x, so the time taken by Rahul will be 30x upon work done per unit time, which is per hour is 3x. So it is coming out to be 10 hour is the answer to this question. So this is one way wherein I've made the equation and try and solve this. Let's look out for one of the shorter way of looking at it. What we can do, just visualizing and do it. I'm just erasing it and doing it. Okay. Now the other way could be Rahul works for 8 hours and Gautam G works for 6 hours, work is completed. While if Rahul work for 7.5 hours, while G also work for 7.5 hours, work is completed. So if you observe, Rahul has reduced working time 0.5 hours. Now, since that work is done by Gautam and Gautam has taken 1.5 hours more to do the same task which is done by Rahul in 0.5. So can I say ratio of time taken by Rahul and Gautam to do the same task is 0.5 is to 1.5, which is 1:3. So if the ratio of time taken is 1:3, that means the work which is done by Rahul in 1 hour is same as the work done by Gautam in 3 hours, right? So now what we are supposed to calculate is nothing but if Rahul is working all alone, then the total time taken. Now, if Rahul is working all alone, so that means the work which is done by Gautam in 6 hours has to be done by Rahul only. Now, we know Gautam's 3-hour work is as good as Rahul's 1-hour work. So therefore, we can say Gautam's 6-hour work will be same as Rahul's 2 hours work. So that means this work now will be done by Rahul in 2 hours. So that means Rahul work for 8 hours. Already he has to do the work, and he has to do 2 more hours to the work which is done by Gautam in 6 hours, and therefore total time taken by Rahul is going to be 8 plus 2, and that is equals to 10 hours, which is my answer. Which is my answer to this question. So this can be done using this approach also, and this way we'll be able to save our question number 19. One part of a hostel's monthly expenses is fixed and the other part is proportional to the number of its boarders. Okay. The hostel collects 1600 rupees per month from each boarder. Okay. That is also fixed. Now, when the number of boarders is 50, the profit of the hostel is 200 per boarder. Okay. 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 So 200 per boarder is the profit if there are 50 people who are there. Okay. Okay. So profit is 50. For 50 people, profit is going to be 200 per boarder. And when the number of boarders is 75, the profit of the hostel is 250 per boarder. When the number of the boarder is 80, now we are supposed to identify what will be the total profit of the hostel. Okay. So one thing we got to know that nothing but hostel is charging 1600 rupees per person. And the total cost is nothing but, if I talk about total expenses that is incurred, total expenses will be equals to nothing but there's a fixed expense which is there, they mentioned that, and there is a variable expense and they mentioned that it is proportional to the number of boarders. So let's say fixed expense is equals to X and per person variable expense is Y. So therefore this variable expense will be N into Y, where Y is the expense, that is a variable expense per boarder. Okay, variable expense per boarder, that is equals to Y. Now, when there are, according to question, when there are 50 people who are there, and hostel is charging 1600 rupees per person, so the total amount received in the first case, total amount received is equals to 1600 into 50, which is equals to 80,000. So this is the receiving when there are 50 boarders who are there. And it also says that the hostel is incurring a profit of 200 rupees per boarder when the number is 50. So can I say profit will be equals to, for 50, 200 per person, and that is coming out to be nothing but equals to 10,000. So eventually the total expense that is incurred by the hostel will be 80,000 minus 10,000, which is equal to 70,000, right? Okay, so the total expense will be 70,000. We can also calculate using this. Out of 1600, they mentioned that 200 per boarder is there. So therefore, 1400 is the total cost per person into 50, which is coming out to be 70,000. So we can write it as 70,000 is the total cost, which is equals to fixed cost plus N is 50 in this case into Y. Right. Now, if the number of boarders are 75, then the profit of the hostel is 250 rupees per boarder. So that means if there are 75 people, so out of 1600, 250 is the profit. So that means the remaining 1350 per person is the expenditure. So the total expense will be nothing but, we can calculate, it is equals to 1350 per person into 75 is equals to X plus 75Y. Because out of the total 1600 per person, 250 is the profit. So that means this is the total cost incurred or the expenses which are incurred in this. We can also calculate this. Otherwise also, using that amount received is equals to 1600 into 75. Which is coming out to be nothing but, if we solve it, it will come out to be nothing but 75 into 6 is 450. So 45, 75 into 1 is 75 plus 45 is going to be 120. So in that case, the total amount received is going to be nothing but 1,20,000, right? And in this, when I talk about the profit which is there, so the profit is 250 into number of borders were 75, which is coming out to be nothing but 75 into 5 is 375. That means 37 carry, 75 into 2 is 150. 150 plus 37 is going to be nothing but 150 plus 37. Right. So therefore, the difference of these two, is coming out to be nothing but 101,250, because 1,20,000 minus 18,750, so it's going to be 1,01,250. This you will also get by multiplying this basically. So effectively, it is nothing but 101,250. Either ways you can do it. Now we've got two equation and we've got two unknowns. So therefore, if I need to solve, just subtracting equation number 1 from second, what we end up getting is nothing but 2 minus 1. So I'll write it here. 2 minus 1. So that means 25y is coming out to be nothing but 31,250. So the value of y is coming out to be nothing but 31250 divided by 25, which is coming out to be nothing but 25 ones are 25, 6, 25 twos are 5s are this. Okay. So y is 1250. You just plug in y equals to 1250 in equation number 1, right? Let me write it here. Let me put a line out here. So once I plug in y equals to 1250 in the first equation, so 70,000 is equals to x plus 50 into 1250. X plus 125 into 5 is 625. So it is coming out with this. So x will come out with nothing but 7,500. So that means I know the value of x as well as y. And now what am I supposed to calculate is nothing but what will be the profit which will be obtained total profit if there are 80 borders. So what I need to calculate is nothing but if there are 80 border, now I know the amount received will be nothing but 1600 per border, right? And I need to calculate what is the total cost, and the difference will give me the answer. So the total expense will be for 80 border will be nothing but x, which is 7,500 plus 80 times of 1250. 80 times of 1250 because the value of y is nothing but this. So it is 7,500 plus 8 into 5 is 40. Then 8 2s are 16 plus 4 is 20. That makes it carry 2, 8 1 8 and 2 10. So it is coming out in 1,07,500 is the total expense for 80 borders. Now this is total expenses. What are the total receiving? So let me write it here. Total receiving is going to be 1600 into 80. Eight 6 are 48. We've got 481, 1 lakh 20. Okay. So we get to know the total expenses which are incurred is 1,07,500, while this is the total receiving which is there. So the profit is going to be difference of that. So the profit to the hostel will be equals to 1,28,000 minus 1,07,500, which is coming out to be nothing but 20,500, which is the answer to this question, right? So this is how we'll be able to solve this. Look at question number 28. It says 3x plus 2 mod y plus y equals to 7 and x plus mod x plus 3y is equals to 1, then the value of x plus 2y is. I know mod of x is equals to x if x is greater than equal to 0 and is equals to minus x if x is less than 0, and same goes for y also, right? So since it is not known whether x and y are greater or equal to 0 or less than 0, so we have to take sorry, we have to take all the 4 cases into consideration and see in which case we'll get the result. Now the first case will be when both x and y are greater than 0. So if our both are positive, so mod will open as such. So the first equation will become 3x plus 2y plus y, which is equals to 7. So that means 3x plus 3y is equals to 7. And the other is x plus x, that is 2x plus 3y is equals to 1. If I solve it by subtracting, I end up getting subtracting the second equation from the first, and I end up getting x equal to 6. Just plug in x equal to 6 in any of the equation, we get y as less than 0. My assumption was y has to be greater than 0, but I'm not getting it. Therefore, against my assumption, and therefore, this is not a possible case. Now, second case is going to be nothing but if x is positive while y is negative. If x is positive and y is negative, in that case, mod of x will open as x, while mod of y will open as minus y. So in the first equation, it is going to be 3x. So 2 mod y is minus 2y plus y, that's going to be minus y is equals to 7. While for the second equation, it is x plus mod x, that will become 2x plus 3y is equals to 1. Now the case was when I assumed x to be greater than equal to 0 and y to be less than 0. Now we've got two equation. Okay, so multiply first equation with 3 to make the coefficient of y same. So it will come out to be nothing but 9x minus 3y is equals to 21. Now if I add these two equations, I end up getting 11x. Y will get cancelled is equals to 22, and therefore x will come out to be 2. Now just x is 2, that means it is positive. Plug in x equal to 2 in any of the equation. Just plug in that in the first equation. I end up getting 3 into 2 minus y is equals to 7. Right. So therefore minus y is equals to 1, which implies y equals to 1 minus 1, which is a negative value. Therefore, my assumption is correct, and therefore this should lead to a right answer. X equal to 2 and y equal to minus 1. Just plug in that value. X equals to 2. So x plus 2y, x equal to 2 plus 2 into minus 1, that is 2 minus 2 equal to 0 is my answer. So ideally we don't have to check anything because I know one of the values satisfied and that is there in the option. So that means that is my answer. But if you check for the other values, you'll see it will not satisfy, and therefore this is going to be my answer for this question. Let's look at question number 21. It says a tea shop offers tea in cups of 3 different sizes. The product of the prices of INR of 3 different sizes is equals to 800. Okay, so the product of the price is equals to 800. The price of the smallest size and the medium size, it is also given in the ratio 2:5. If the shop owner decides to increase the price of the smallest and the medium ones by INR 6, keeping the price of the largest size unchanged, the product of the changes says 3200, and the sum of the original price of 3 different sizes in INR are. Let us assume that price of the smaller is 2x, and therefore price of the medium size will be 5x, because the ratio is given 2:5. And assume that the price of the larger is gonna be Z. So therefore, according to question, they've given that 2x into 5x into Z is equals to 800. And the other is if the price is increased by 6 for both the smallest and the medium, that is 2x plus 6 into 5x plus 6 into Z is equals to 3200. With these two, I'm supposed to calculate what is the value of X and Z, because two unknowns are there, and basis that we'll be able to calculate it, right? Okay, so let's simplify. I end up getting X square Z is equals to 80, and here it is coming out to be nothing but 2x plus 6 into 5 is equals to 3200, right? Okay, now we've got two equation with me and two unknowns. So now there are two ways of looking at it. One, we divide this equation 1 with equation 2 so that Z will cancel and I end up getting two values of X, and based on that we'll be able to identify. Second is we can also do this. I know X square into Z is equals to 80. So therefore, if the value of X is 1, so Z will become 80. If the value of X is 2, this for X equal to 1, for X equal to 2, it will become Z will become 20. For X equal to 3, the value of Z will be less than the value of 5X. Therefore, it is not possible because the price of the largest has to be the maximum value. So therefore, we've got two options. One is the price are 2, 5 and 80, or the price are 4, 10 and 20. So if these are the product is going to be this. So taking the first case, if it is increased by 6, that means it will become 8. This increased by 6, that becomes 11, and this remains 80. So the product is not equal to 3200. Therefore, this cannot be the case. If I take this, 4 increases by 6, that becomes 10. 10 increases by 6, that becomes 16. This remains 20 only. And this product, if you take, is coming out to be 3200. So therefore, which is equal to what is required, and therefore the value of X is 2, which eventually gives me price of 3, 4, 10 and 20 are the price of the small, medium and the larger, and therefore their sum is coming out to be 34, which is the answer to this question. So you can make a quadratic equation and solve it, but better is nothing but go ahead with this because this will save your. Let's look at question number 22, the last question. The number of distinct pairs of integers satisfying wherein 1 plus mn is less than m plus n is further less than 5, and mn are integers looking for the possible combination. Okay, now since mod of m plus n is less than 5, so therefore this can take a value which is either 4 or less than that. Now 1 plus mn mod is further less than mod of m plus n, so therefore this will be either 3 or less. So that means I can say 1 plus mn mod is always less than equal to 3. It cannot be more than that. So therefore, if mn are integers, the possible value it can take is going to be nothing but 0, 1, 2 and 3. And basis this we'll try and identify possible values of m plus n which will satisfy this. So let's take the first case. Let's take the first case. If 1 plus mn mod is equals to 0. Now this is only possible if m into n is equals to -1, and the product of two number is -1 and both are integers. So one of them has to be 1 while the other is going to be -1. Now in that's the only possibility. In either ways, mn 1 minus 1 or vice versa. So in this case, m plus n will surely be equal to 0. Now, since mod of m plus n is 0 and mod of m plus n is also 0, which is not possible because I want that value m plus n greater than this. Therefore, the first case of 0 is not possible. Let's take the second case. Let's take the second case. If the value of 1 plus mod of this is equals to 1. Now, this is only possible when m into n is equal to 0. Now, m into n equal to 0, there are lot of values which will satisfy it. But yes, I know it is product is equal to 0 when one of them is 0, when one of them is 0. And I also know that the value of mod m plus n has to be either 4 or less than that. So let's take this 0 into 1. In this case, m plus n will become 1. 0 into 2, it will become 2. 0 into 3, it will become 3. 0 into 4, it will become 4. I cannot take 0 into 5 because 0 into 5 will take m plus n to be equal to 5, which is not possible. So therefore, I can say if I take 0 into 1, 0 into 2, or 0 into 3, or 0 into 4, 1 plus mn will always be equal to 1, while m plus n will become 1, 2, 3, 4. I cannot take m plus n equal to 1 because it has to be mod of m plus n has to be greater than 1. So therefore, these three values are possible when I've taken m into n is 0 and I've taken n to be a positive number. N can be negative also. So therefore, the other possibility for m into n, the other possibility for m into n will be 0 into minus 1, 0 into minus 2, 0 into minus 3, and 0 into minus 4. So again, I cannot take 0 into minus 1 because in this case, mod of m plus n will be equal to 1, which is equal to 1 plus mn, which is not possible. Again, this leads to 2, 3, and 4, the value of mod m plus n, which is possible. Therefore, with m as 0, n can take values 2, 3, 4, and minus 2, minus 3, and minus 4. That means 6 values. Similarly, we can swap this, and if we take n equal to 0, we will have 6 values for m. So that means in total, for this second case, there are 12 values which satisfy this. Now take the third case. Let me write it here. Take the third case when mod of 1 plus mn is equals to 2. Now this is only possible if m into n equals to 1 or m into n is equals to minus 3, because 1 minus 3 will be minus 2 and modulus of that will be 2. Now m into n will become 1. The only possibility will be either both are positive, same as 1, or minus 1 into minus 1. Now in each of this case, mod of m plus n will become 2, which is equal to 1 plus mn mod. Therefore, it is not possible. Now the second is if m into n is equals to minus 3. If m into n is equals to minus 3, it is possible if one of them is 1, the other is minus 3, or if one of them is minus 1 and the other value is 3. In each case, mod of m plus n will become 2, again equal to 1 plus mn mod. So therefore, it is not possible because it is clearly mentioned that 1 plus mn mod has to be less. So therefore, value 2 is also not possible. Now looking at the fourth case, if mod of 1 plus mn is equals to 3. Now this is only possible if m into n is equals to 2 or m into n is equals to minus 4, because 1 minus 4 is minus 3, which again leads to 3. Now, if the product of two number is 2, it is only possible if both are 1 into 2 positive in any order, or minus 1 into minus 2. Now, in both the cases, if you look at, mod of m plus n will become 3, which is equal to 1 plus mn, which is equals to 1 plus mn. So therefore, this is not possible, because I want mod of m plus n has to be greater than 1 plus m. Now, this last case, if m into n is equal to minus 4, now the possible values are minus 1 into 4, or 1 into minus 4, or minus 2 into 2 in any order. Now, in the first case, if we look at, mod of m plus n will be equal to 3. In the second case, is equal to 3. And while in the third case, it equals to 0, and none of the value is greater than 3. Therefore, again, all these three rules out, and therefore, we end up getting 12 possible values are there, which are possible when I took mod of 1 plus mn equal to 1 or mn equal to 0. And those values are nothing but, with m as 0, n varies from 2, 3, 4, minus 2, minus 3, minus 4. And if n as 0, then m will take these values. So therefore, 12 possible values are the answer to this question. Slightly time consuming, but we need to take the cases, and this is how we'll be able to solve it. So guys, we have observed that a lot of questions are there which are based on the mocks that we have taken, right? So it's all about practicing, and all the very best to all of you for the second stage. I hope and wish all of you will do well in the interviews also, and all the very best for the remaining exam, guys. Thank you. Bye bye.